on in just a second.
What you want to know, what you need to know. FM Money Talk Radio, WWNN.
Having a place to go after school will make
Lots
you
of
a better
commercials.
student. Having an outlet to express yourself will make you a better artist. Having something to do together will make you a better family. At the Y, we're helping build better friends.
By the way, the phone number, in case you want to call in, is 888-565-1471. Once again, that's 888-565-1471. We're on 95.3 FM, 1470 AM.
Opinions expressed on the following sponsored
And
program
here we
are
go,
strictly
just a
those of the
second.
host, guests, and callers, and not necessarily those of this station, its staff, management, or sponsors.
And the music.
Finally, a spiritual show that
Hopefully
isn't
Facebook won't take me off.
so you get information to relax you, give insight into abundance, and imparts divine guidance. Be sure to call in at 888-565.
Even Daniel's in the other room bobbing his head to the music. It's not just me.
With intuitive mind spirit mentor Halley Elise is just about to begin. So don't miss even a minute. Now here's Halley Elise.
Hi everyone, how are you today? It's so nice to be here. It's a beautiful day in Boca Raton, Florida. Not like it was a couple of weeks ago where it was blustery and windy and rainy, and it seemed as if every day was something different. I miss the cool weather, and if I had an opportunity to go up north right this second, I would be there. However, if all goes well, some folks I know from up north will be coming down here. Maybe they'll bring the cool weather with them. Today's show is called Mishmash, or I should rephrase that and say the theme for today's show is Mishmash, which simply means that we will cover a bunch of different little things. And if you'd like to call in for a psychic reading, you are welcome to do so. It's 888-565-1470. I'll give that number again, 888-565-1470. It's interesting, I was on the phone with a client yesterday. We had a psychic session for her. I guess it was about a week and a half ago. She had received some discomforting news in respect to her health, and she wanted to see if there was something that would come in to give her some, I would say, comfort, or to point her in one direction or another. And I always preface with the fact that I am not a physician. I don't profess to be a medical intuitive. However, oftentimes something will come through when the client needs something. And it's interesting how that works, because it's really all about alleviating fear in that moment. The gist was, what came through was that this was going to be manageable. It was going to be less of a chore or challenge than she thought, and all would be well. In between the initial session we had for the psychic information, she realized herself that due to her own thinking, her own emotional state, she was creating disruptions in her body. And she phoned and asked, could we do some hypnosis? And we did. She did exceptionally well with the hypnosis, it's one of those days, session. And it was a couple of days later that she had to go to the doctor. I heard from her afterwards. The doctor was a doll, let her know immediately what everything was in respect to results, and surprisingly, much better than initially anticipated. Now, you could say it's coincidence. I tend to feel that she was on the right path to begin with. This was just something to wake her up, to get her attention, enabling her to do better for herself. Doing the hypnosis session brought things to the surface that she needed to look at, that she had a feeling about, however, didn't really know how to process. It's interesting because we all have our own process. The complicated part is we don't always know what is it that we should be paying attention to. Our minds, I mean, truly, think how many thoughts a day? Science in one area, one journal says it's 2,000, another says 20,000. I'm not really quite sure at this point what the accurate number of thoughts are per day. However, if you're concerned about something, think about it. What comes up? All sorts of stuff. Though it's important to check in with yourself and find out, is there a contribution that you've made? Now you might think, well, that's ridiculous, because why would anyone want ill health, or why would anyone cause themselves any sort of discomfort? Though we don't recognize that our life, our entire life, tends to bring things to our attention, and either we pay attention in that moment or we don't. It really is that quick. And I'll give an example. Let's say you're growing up in a household and your parents are arguing, and they end up in a divorce, and you're male, and you see your father's actions. And your father, after the divorce, really used to say, women, you know, why go and marry them when, if you already have the cow type of thing, or I'm trying to remember the old phrase. If somebody remembers this, tell me. But the idea was that, why go and, I think, buy the cow if you already are getting the milk for free? Something to that effect. I know it's not exact, forgive me. My point being, if you were seeing this and you were a young man, you might grow up thinking, hey, who needs relationships? I could just have a good time. I mean, my dad did, and it didn't work out with my mom, so I'm not going to commit to a relationship. I'm just not going to do it. And then all of a sudden you meet somebody who's absolutely lovely, who you want to be with, and perhaps you spend 3-4 years together, and that gal starts to say to you, hey, well, what's up here, bud? Are we ever going to take that next step? And in your head, you're thinking, what do I need to take a next step for? You know, things are good the way they are. You may not recognize in that moment that you're harming yourself, because there's a part of you that is enamored with that person, that wants to be with them, that genuinely cares and loves for them. But there's another part of yourself that's fighting, that's creating conflict, saying, yeah, you don't have to do this. Look, dad's happy, I could be happy too. And it's not specifically that conscious, meaning it's not as if every day you think in terms of what's in the forefront of your consciousness. Most times it's after the fact. Most times we find that we have an illness, or we're hurting about something, and it takes a while, a little bit of digging, if you will, to uncover it. Now, does this mean that everybody needs a therapist? No. Does this mean everybody needs hypnosis? No. I will tell you, though, that everything that we experience has an energy signature to it. And if you continue to repeat the same sort of habit, it gets stronger. And it begins to kind of take on a life of its own, showing up in your world quite often. And you'll find that it's not just one area. Meaning, if you cannot make a commitment to a relationship, to a marriage, to something permanent, after a while it shows up in other areas. Perhaps it shows up in work. Perhaps it shows up in familial obligations. And you're not even aware. You don't understand, why is everybody getting so out of sorts? These are these times when you want to take a look and ask yourself, do I have any accountability here? Now, the average person doesn't think that way. They just don't, because we're not raised, hey, if you do something, you have to have critical thinking, you have to go within, you have to listen to, that energy that's going on. Who teaches that in kindergarten, first grade? We don't. We should. Did you know that I believe it's the Japanese, if I'm not mistaken, they start their toddlers off with meditation. Toddlers. That's what, 2-3 years old? We were lucky if we have an awareness of it when we are in our teens. A lot of times people don't have an awareness of it till much later. And the idea of meditation, oftentimes people are put off by, because they think it's got to be laborious. They think that they have to sit for an hour, or that it's got to be every day at the exact time for 30 minutes, and it has to be 20 times in a cycle, and on and on and on. The truth of the matter is, there are all sorts of practices, and not every single one is done the same way. You have to find the one that feels right to you. Personally, I like quick and easy. I tend to meditate on and off all day, but I tend to do prayer work on and off all day. And if you're thinking, well, how do you do that? You can do a prayer of gratitude in less than 30 seconds. I mean, really think about this for a moment. Can you get quiet for 30 seconds? Can you go within for 30 seconds and think about what it is that you really truly have gratefulness for, that you really are happy that you have this in your world and you wouldn't want to be without it, that's a start. That's a start to meditating. It's a start to mindfulness. It's a start to going within. And so this brings me full circle to the idea of when someone's ill, there's typically a causation that is not limited to genetics. Yes, can be affected by environment. We can be affected by genetics. We can be affected by our food, by our mental state. I could go on and on. You get the picture here. It's not all of it. A larger part of it is usually something deeper within, something that energetically is not in alignment with who we are as a being. And if there's conflict there, if you're finding that you have, for instance, psoriasis, it seems like, well, a lot of people have that. But why? Why do a lot of people have it and others don't? Or a particular type of affliction, whatever that is, whether severe or not. Why is it that some people get it and others don't? Again, we could go back to, well, hereditary factors or environment. And yet, we could take a group of people that have the same environment, have the same type of hereditary factors, don't do anything special. However, their emotional state and their state is different. And that's the only difference. And they don't get that illness. I don't know. What do you think? I think that perhaps gives a little indication that we are responsible for our wellness. In the same token, we are responsible for how do we attract love in our lives. Now, if you're thinking, oh, it's been forever, I would like somebody in my life. Why isn't this happening? Ask yourself, are you being nice to you? Are you bringing love to yourself? Meaning, do you look in the mirror and compliment yourself? Do you pat yourself on the back when you do something nice? If somebody says thank you, do you go, no, no big deal? Or do you say, oh, you're welcome, and really accept that thank you? That little thing there, that can make a difference between having a long-term loving relationship or something passing, or relationships that aren't serving. It's important to value ourselves, and it's not just in the romantic sense. It's important to value ourselves all the way around. And if you want to drop 20 pounds, if your hair is gray, if you're losing your hair, if your nose is growing, whatever it is that you are dealing with in the moment, if you take just a short period of time and you go within and you say, okay, I'm going to allow my intuition to guide me. I'm going to get quiet and hear the voice that comes up that tells me how to make this better or how to look at it differently. I'm open to making changes that are positive without beating myself up, without saying that I'm less than. Because every time we say that we are less than, that's what we're putting out into the universe. And there's no woo-woo about it. It's that idea. Science has shown us that what we think about, we bring about. What we focus on, we attract. And if we're focusing on the lack of something, we attract that. It's where our mind goes. It's where our attention is going on a consistent basis. And then if you do it enough, you convince yourself you're never going to have it. How many times have you heard a man or woman say, well, I guess it's just not in the cards for me to have love again, or a relationship, or get what they want, or I'm too old, I can't. I could give you a plethora of examples of people that were older that all of a sudden were immense successes. And it wasn't because they believed they could, it's because they didn't stop until they succeeded. And I want to say this is what we need to adapt as a society. We want wellness, we need to focus on wellness and keep going until we have it. We want relationships that are serving, that are supporting, that actually help us see ourselves through their eyes. Then we have to put that out there. And I'm not suggesting we all become cocky and walk around going, hey, I'm better than you, or I deserve this. No, I'm simply speaking about recognizing your worthiness. Where is it that you could honestly say that you've done good in your life? I do a little exercise with clients a lot of times, and I'm not a therapist. I may sound like that sometimes, but I'm not. This to me is all intuitively based. information that I share really and truly comes this way, and I just share it. And I've been doing this a long time, and I've been continually studying, and I pay attention in the same way most of you do, though we all have different areas that we're good at. What is it that you're good at? What is it that you can honor? What is it that you can love versus being dismissive? And I'll give an example. Let's say you know someone who's a psychologist and they're great at psychology. However, they're an even better musician than they are psychologist. However, as a musician, they thought they weren't going to be able to do it. They thought that they'd never make it. They'd never bring in enough income. It would be too much of a task. And so they gave up their music, except for their own enjoyment. Why is that? Why is it that they could be accomplished in psychology and not in music? Do you really think it has a matter of doing that they couldn't make money? Because there are musicians that make money, lots of money. Just off the top of my head, there are two gentlemen that I know. One, phenomenal, has an amazing experience. People love to be entertained by this man. He's really great at what he does. He barely ekes out a living. The other, he's really good at what he does. I don't think he's as equally good in respect to entertaining. He makes triple the amount of money. What's the difference there? It's not a matter of the clubs they go to. It's not a matter of the quote-unquote going rate. The one who makes triple the amount of money, when he walks in, he knows that he's not accepting anything less. He knows that he is deserving of money. And energy goes out. It's moved, it's felt. And sometimes you don't even have to verbalize anything. All right, today's show is Mishmash, that's the theme, and we are going to take a quick break. If you have an opinion on something that you'd like to share, if you'd like a psychic reading, feel free to give me a buzz at 888-565-1470. Once again, that's 888-565-1470, and we will be right back. I have to watch the cues in the control room.
Halley Elise Show on Saturdays, 4:30 p.m. Eastern, here on WNN.
It's only a moment. Let me see who's here today. Hey, Eddie. You're amazing also. Who are you kidding? Hi, Rob. Hi, Renee. Oh my goodness, Renee, I don't think I've connected with you in forever. Let me see who else is there. Nope. It's not letting me look. Oh, Patricia. Hi. Hi, Robert. Hi, Jim. Hey, Lauren. Hi. Hi, Alyssa. Hi, Lynn. Who else? Jose. Hello, hello. Hi, Lori. Hi, Catalina. I think I said hi to everyone. I hope so. We're going back on the air in just a second. And we're back. Alrighty, we are back. And on break, I was just taking a look at the live feed for Facebook and trying to make sure that I said hi to everyone. If I missed anybody, please let me know. I'll say hi later. Or you can reach out to me if you like. I was just thinking on break while I was multitasking. My mind goes into lots of different directions at one time about how we all seem to have our own program in respect to how we believe we should do things or what our expectation is. And I'll give an example. My friend who passed away not that long ago, she lived her life the way she lived her life. And there are a lot of folks that said, well, she shouldn't have done this, or she should have done that, or she should have done this differently. And I've been thinking about it because she leaves behind a family. I don't believe any of her family are looking at her life and saying she should have. I think they're looking at her life saying, you will be so missed. She was a very loving soul. And whether she did or did not impart wisdom, whether she did or did not teach children, whether she did or did not do certain things, doesn't lessen her value. I mean, really think about this for a moment. The people that we love, that are dear to our hearts, do we love them less because they accomplished something or didn't accomplish something? I don't think so. I mean, really, we may have times when we wish a father or a mother or a sibling or a grandparent would do something different, that we would have perhaps a better relationship with them. But how many of us do look at people that we care about and say, they don't have any value because they didn't do A, B, C, or D? I don't think any of us do that. Or perhaps there's a rare exception. I think the average person loves and wants to be loved, period. I mean, I know that's oversimplifying, but really, I saw something earlier. I tried to actually move it from LinkedIn to Facebook so that people could share. It was a little video about somebody who was driving through Starbucks, not in Florida, in a different state. And they saw this man who was sitting outside screaming and yelling, and he was just kind of out of control, and there was nobody else there. You could tell he was somewhat haggard. Perhaps he was homeless, most probably. And the people driving by felt bad for him, but they didn't think it was wise to get out of the car and say something. They phoned the police. Policeman came. He asked if it was okay if he sat down. He showed the man respect. He sat with him for a few moments and diffused a volatile situation. And from there, helped the gentleman get to where he needed to be. Now, in our reality, we see way too often about police brutality, about how we should defund, how they're all bad. How can they all be bad? Here's somebody who didn't know this guy. Perhaps he was putting himself in danger sitting down, but he sat down and showed the man respect. He de-escalated a difficult situation because his energy was calm. So even though the gent who was across from him was out of sorts and carrying on, this police officer was able to sit quietly, to talk with him, to create some peace. Now, that gent who is homeless, or perhaps he was drinking or drugged or has mental issues, whatever the situation was, did he have less value? No. And the people that were driving by recognized that. I mean, how difficult is it for us as humans? We're supposed to have humanity, to step back a little and just take a look at other humans with love. Now, obviously, I'm not suggesting you run out and kiss everybody on the planet. Then again, there's several people that do hugging just because. Ken Learman, I don't know if he's on here today, but he's a gentleman who, I think he lives in Deerfield Beach, if I'm not mistaken. The news did a little ditty on him at one point. He was just giving out roses to people just because. And again, I'm not saying that everybody has to run and give a stranger a hug or give a rose or give a kiss. What I'm simply suggesting is that we start thinking a little differently about our own value and the value of other people. Everyone here has a place. We may not know what it is, but do we know absolutely everything? And if we think in terms of a divine plan or the bigger picture, I have a shaman friend who used to talk about the bigger picture all the time, and I wanted to crown him because it was like, please, enough of the bigger picture. I'm looking at the immediate picture. However, do we really know the bigger picture? Is anyone here 100% confident that they know exactly why every person is here and what they're supposed to accomplish or how they're supposed to interact with another? Now, if you use your intuition, you'll have a better understanding of that. And when I say use your intuition, really and truly, every single person on the face of the planet has a level of intuition. You can develop it. You can become more aware of it. Those who say, I don't have a psychic bone in my body. I just don't even know how you do what you do. The truth is it's there. But perhaps because of religious beliefs, it was kind of pushed to the side. Or perhaps somebody would have thought that you were peculiar if you shared information you didn't know. Perhaps you just thought it was kind of weird. All of those things are applicable, but you have to choose. And so again, when I go back to the idea of using your intuition, truly every person has intuition. It's a matter of what level. And the interesting thing that I always am astounded by is I used the word psychic for years. Psychic, intuitive, empowerment psychic, spiritual entrepreneur and psychic, lots of different ways to express it, depending on the circle of people, depending on the time in history. It's just a title to say, hey, I actually use that sixth sense that we are all born with. For whatever reason, I came into this world listening to it a bit more than maybe someone else, but that doesn't mean that they don't have it. It's just a matter of opening the door. And one of the easiest ways to do that is to meditate, is to get quiet for short periods. And again, it doesn't have to be one of those, well, I don't have time to breathe, let alone sit down for 30 minutes. It can be simply stopping for 3 minutes, multiple times throughout your day, just getting quiet, going within and saying, I am peaceful, I am relaxed, I am open to my intuition. Think about this. I am peaceful, I am relaxed, I am open to my intuition. That's it. Can anyone not do that for 3 minutes? Can anyone not find a moment for themselves? Because we come back to self-value. Is it important enough to you to listen to your own inner guidance? Is it important enough to you to have more joy in your life? Is it important enough to you to make a difference? Or is your discomfort at such a level that you're happy to be there? It's a choice. It really is. It's a choice. It comes down to stopping for a moment and not feeling as if life has to be just the way it is. It can be how we make it. I was talking with someone recently and they were saying it's so interesting that we have faith about certain things that we can't see, and yet things that we want to see we don't have faith in. So for instance, we have faith that something greater than ourselves exists, proven or unproven to the individual. And yet, when it comes to making a living, or having a relationship, or wellness, we don't believe that. That's something that we all have to take a look at. Can we ask for what we want and actually believe that we have the capacity to do it, to make it happen, to bring it forth? Because guess what? We can. You can. If you are breathing, you have the capability to make beautiful changes and create an abundant life. It's not as complex as people think. It's complex when we overthink. I'm going to suggest something funny in my Mishmash day here, and that is, for the rest of the day, anytime anything happens, say yes. There's actually a film called Yes Day. Say yes. See what happens. You might just be surprised with your outcome. Somebody says, hey, you want a piece of steak? And you're thinking I was going to have a hot dog? Say yes anyways. If they ask you if you want to go to the store and you didn't plan on it, say yes. Just think yes for the rest of the day. So you go to sleep. See what happens. If your mind comes up with an idea and you think it's far-fetched, say yes. Go for it. See what happens. But remember, take 3 minutes. Go within. Get quiet. Be open to your own intuition. And what will happen is you'll find that your life improves in lots of different ways. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Hope you enjoyed Mishmash today. Feel free to write comments. I do look at them later, and I will get back to anyone who had anything that needed a response. Have a beautiful rest of your weekend, and we'll see you next week. Bye, everyone.